The Spotlight, shining a light on podcasts and videos that have caught our attention.
Hi and welcome to The Spotlight. I'm Jen Spiker, and today I'm highlighting a podcast series recently added to the Vision app. Faith, Life, Sport is a series of interviews produced by Graeme Burrill. Like many Aussies, Graeme has a passion for sport and loves to share the stories and testimonies of Christians in sports from around the world. In this episode of Faith, Life, Sport, Graeme caught up with one of the toughest players on the footy field, Brad Thorn. Brad is a dual international representing Australia in rugby league and New Zealand in union. We'll pick up the conversation where Brad shares his spiritual journey.
The Spotlight with Jen Spiker.
We come from New Zealand, but we went to church. We went to Presbyterian Church in New Zealand, and I went to Sunday school as a kid up till I was 9, and loved Jesus, loved going to Sunday school, and my dad was helped run the youth group. I remember saying prayers with Mum, at the end of the bed, before you go to sleep and stuff. And we came to Australia, and unfortunately, we went along to a church. We didn't really feel comfortable there, and we just stopped going. And that's a big change up if you think about it. From the age of 9 towards about 15, I'd go to church at Easter or Christmas Day, that sort of family. And then luckily, some people moved down the road from our house, and my parents became friendly with them. They got back to church. My brother decided in his teenage years he's an atheist, and it was fortunate he had a Christian who was a friend of his in his class and asked him challenged him to come along to church. And 3-4 weeks later, my brother became a Christian. Yeah. Christian, and there was me, and all this footy and stuff was taking off, and I believed in God and Jesus, but I hadn't submitted my life to the Lord, and surrendered, and I got pretty loose. Like I said, by 19 I was playing first grade, 21 I was playing Origin, 22 I was playing for Australia, and I was on $1 million contract. You think about that back in the 90s, 3 years it was $1 million contract. I was like 22, had a house, had a car with my name on it in the driveway, and plenty of ego, and just, the life I was living. I was boozing, and I was womanizing, and I was doing all this stuff. The more stuff I had, I just wanted more stuff. I didn't really feel the thing that was interesting for me is I had this dream of being a professional footy player. I remember telling my family when I went back to New Zealand as like a 13-year-old, I want to be a professional footy player. And I was supposed to feel happy and good with all this stuff, and I've succeeded. And I was feeling empty, and I was feeling I lacked fulfillment, I lacked purpose, and there was a sadness, and I just couldn't work. For me it was crazy. How can I have all these things, And like I said, and I knew I'd fallen a long way with how I was living, compared to how I've been raised, and those. And luckily, because of those earlier years in New Zealand and I guess people around me, but I started to think about God again. And when I made the Australian side, Jason Stevens was my front row partner, mm-hmm. and he was a Christian, and he really stood out from the team, just how he lived his life. It was a little bit different, We were on tour, and could get pretty, loose on tours, We train hard, play hard, party hard, And he had a real integrity around how he lived, and he had what I could see, a real good way about him, but a real peace that I could sense. And we talked, we roomed together, played against each other, but we became good friends. And the key thing I said to him was, I like Christians, they're nice people. Maybe when I'm an old person one day, you see old people, they just seem to be nice, they're old, look at that nice old guy. Maybe then I'll be a Christian, but right now I'm a loose cannon, and I don't want to be a hypocrite, and So he said, I said, when I change, then I'll be a Christian. He said, it's when Jesus changes you, mate. It's not you changing. It's, Jesus, God loved us, so much. He gave his son. He died on the cross, for our sins, and the hope that when he rose again as well, but you need to get to know Jesus. You need to, ask Jesus into your life, and he can change you. And for me, I thought, oh yeah, okay. I went back. It was after a tour. I went back for a couple of months. I probably got even looser, and I was trying to change, but I sort of had my ways about me. And one morning I got up and I just went, I'm not changing, and I want to, but I can't. And I'm going to do what Jason talked about. So I got down on my knees and in my house on my own. I wasn't at church or anything, but and I said, quite funny, I said, Jesus, if you're there, I don't know if you're there or not, but if you're there, please forgive me for my sins. Done some really bad stuff, done some stuff that's not so bad, but, please forgive me for my sins. Please take it from me, and here's the keys, like the car keys, come into my life. Please come into my life. I submit my life to you, surrender my life. Come into my life and turn this around, So once I said that prayer, I didn't really talk to anyone about it because I just didn't want to be a guy that said, hey, I'm a Christian now, and then 2 weeks later I'm, making a mess of myself somewhere,
Yeah.
So but probably there was change that happened inside me. The way I thought, probably the biggest thing was that up until then it was all about me. People were way down the line second. Then God wasn't really thought about too much. That turned around massively from that time. God started to become very important in my life. How I was living my life, whatever. Others became important, and then sort of myself. So that probably doesn't sound like much, but that's a big turnaround when all you've been about is you. But yeah, I had a roommate. I used to roommate with Shane Rebke for about 5 years, and I remember him saying, some of the guys asking about me and what's going on with Thorny, and that really confirmed for me that things had changed, and that's where I got to a space where I was around. It was 23, and I went forward from there, and it wasn't the most popular thing, in that era, that time. It was pretty lonely to be a Christian in the Broncos. But over time, I definitely got some, like I said, it wasn't popular. I probably got some solid banter along the way, but over time, I think there was, respect, because I guess my life changed, and your actions speak. You know what I mean? And you're respected. So it was genuine. I cared about the team, played my heart out, and the different things that I think the Lord works in your life. I think hopefully had an impact.
No, thank you so much for sharing. I was going to ask you, I suppose, if you were able to be open about your faith with your teammates, say in the changing room, but you sort of you touched on that a little bit there.
Yeah, well, I think in this world, if you're living across, living through, just Jesus as your Lord, things are going to stand out a little bit, you know. So, I was never, I wasn't a car salesman. I wasn't in people's faces. But, you know, your actions stand out, and there's different times. You know, I wasn't doing some of the stuff I've been doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that gets noticed, you know. You know, sometimes that, you know, it probably wasn't that favourably noticed too, you know, because it just wasn't. It's probably a lot. Faith is a lot easier now, I imagine. You know, you have a lot of Polynesian players and have faith. There was a different sort of era there. And do you know what, mate? I was actually pleased that it was that way, because I think if it just been fluffy, I could have, you know, there was no heat around it. Maybe I would have been lukewarm, and because there was a bit of heat around it, I had to make a decision, you know. Am I going to, you know, I just want to be good with the guys, but, you know, it's not so much that way, you know, because, you know, it wasn't, being Christian wasn't rated too highly. And so, you know, am I going to, I've said this prayer, I've asked the Lord into my life, and, you know, and the Lord is, I believe He's died for my sins. I believe that I have purpose in Him. I believe that, you know, I'm precious and loved by Him, and this is the path I'm going to walk in the Lord's strength. And that was good, because, like I said, if it had just been easy, maybe I would have just been floating along. But made me make a bit of a stand. Nothing compared to people getting persecuted or whatever. Yeah. But just for a guy that just, like I said, in his workplace.
Because I know sort of, I suppose, around that time, and you touched on Jason, like he was very open about with his faith. So there was, you know, a lot of talk and I suppose a focus on what he was doing. As you said, nowadays with that sort of Polynesian influence into rugby league, we're seeing players, you know, at post game, you know, for both teams come together and say a prayer on the field. So there's, I suppose, in the last 20 or so years, a shift from how it was to how things are now.
I went to the Highlanders when I was like 38 years old, and the team, pretty much all Polynesian guys, but there might have been about 8 guys, and they wanted to say a prayer before the game, and we had a chaplain to the team, and we'd have a little Bible study during the week, and we get down on a knee and we say a prayer before the game, and they got me to say it. And I remember just thinking, you know, I'd just come back to the Highlanders just because I actually wanted to finally play for where I actually was born, where I came from, because my dad played for Otago as a junior, whatever. But just I remember thinking, for this alone, it was worth coming to be able to say a prayer with my teammates, because it certainly wasn't going to happen at the Broncos all those years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just felt so good to be able to acknowledge the Lord, and you know, and with, you know, some brothers in Christ, and in different parts of their journey, wherever they are. But to me, it was a privilege, absolute privilege, and to see people, you know, with their faith now, it's wonderful to see.
On the Spotlight, we've been listening to dual international Brad Thorn sharing how he has been able to live out his Christian faith on the footy field. We'll hear more from Brad Thorn next time on the Spotlight, but you can listen to the full interview now by tapping the podcast tab in the Vision app and searching for Faith, Life, Sport. My name is Jen Spiker. If you have a favourite podcast or video series that should be featured, click Contact Us at vision.org.au and share the link. Join me next time as we hear how Brad Thorn's father was influential in his development in both codes of football.
For more great podcasts and videos like the one featured today, check out vision.org.au or the free Vision app.